Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. We have here a returning guest. He's been a guest on our program quite a few times, but today he's going to come back with us and give us a little info on the Phil Baroni story and the situation that's going on with him, because he's got a lot of great memories with Phil, if you've heard some of the videos that the King of Connecticut has put out of some of their times. So, King, what's going on here? What's the situation?
Hollywood, what's happening, brother?
I'm good, my man. How are you?
I'm doing great. So basically, Phil has always been a great friend and almost like a little brother to me, man. Great guy, a lot of fun. And so when I heard about this situation, he'd been down in Mexico for a while now, and he was wanting me to come down a number of times, but I've had too much going on. I meant to get down there, but I hadn't been down there yet. And we had him on Old School Shooters, the show that I co-host with Jack Kilby, and Phil was very relaxed, telling some stories and telling some good times, man. And so when I heard this story about him being arrested in Mexico, it just didn't add up, man. It didn't make sense. And, Phil had told me going back to the middle of last year, started to tell me that he was getting paranoid being down there in Mexico because, with what's going on with the cartels and with involvement that he may have had down there, he was scared, man. He wasn't himself in that regard. And he did tell me that he'd fallen in love down there to this lovely woman, was in a lot of his pictures. And I need to set the record straight that she is still alive. Phil has a great wife of 14 plus years that I'm very close to, Angela Baroni. They aren't married anymore, but they remained very close. And Angela's a great Sicilian woman, beautiful woman, gorgeous woman, really, really down to earth. You can talk to her about anything. She's just such a great woman, and she's a good woman. She's always been in Phil's corner, and we talked, and I told her, I said, this whole thing, what I'm hearing just doesn't make sense, man. So I talked with Angela and with a family member of Phil's, and I'm fortunate to be with one of the most prominent law firms in the United States, and with Berman Law Group. And so I reached out directly to Ted. I have a great relationship with our partners and Ted Berman. And he immediately put me in contact with a gentleman at one of our affiliates in South Texas that does a lot in Mexico. So we were able to get feet on the ground. We were able to get investigators and attorneys to sign with Phil, and I got that for him as part of my position with our firm, and was happy to do that. And we started to get information, and every day I get more and more information. Made sure that Phil was safe where he is down there, and essentially we found out a number of things, and some things that I can talk about. In Mexico, literally the head of their FBI was involved with the cartels. I mean, from the police level, ground level, on up to the very top.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
Yeah. So from the police level at the ground all the way to the very top in Mexico, Hollywood, it's corrupt. And we know that. A lot of us know that, but we don't completely understand the degree of corruption.
Mhm.
I mean, the cartels run the show. They run the prisons, the police. And so as we started to peel back the layers of this Hollywood, we found some things out, man. Number one, what had been reported of this being Phil's girlfriend was fabricated and erroneous. It was a woman that he had just recently met, and to kind of describe when I pulled the pieces of the together, you're going to be able to understand what really happened from what our investigators uncovered, what really happened that night, and it'll paint a picture for you. So I want to say, first of all, condolences to her family, to her loved ones. But the picture we were getting was that she may have been a professional, working girl,
Mhm.
and that she may have been involved into what capacity. I'm really not going to say what information, but with the drug trade down there. So we started to kind of see picture of what was happening, what wasn't being presented by the media. And then the second piece that we found out from the police that was completely fabricated was that they did not provide him with an interpreter, and they did not speak English. So Phil could barely put a sentence together in Spanish. If you watch when he was on Old School Shooters with Jack Kilby and I on Hannibal TV, we recorded with him the weekend after Thanksgiving. I mean, he jokingly says amigo and some words in Spanish, but he can't even put a sentence together.
Right.
And so the information that was in the police report was fabricated. And then we find out that Phil had left the scene for over 30 minutes to get cigarettes and beer, and then came back. And we have witnesses that will testify that two men entered the room in that 30-minute time period. Now, when Phil came back to the room, he completely wigged out and ran to get help for this woman. He flagged down the police, okay? And anyone who knows Phil Baroni, his past with John Elite, who's also part of our team and part of our daily updates, knows that he had involvement with the Gambino organization in his younger days. And I can tell you, Phil was not a killer. He was not a shooter at all in any capacity in the organization. He was muscle for money, for collecting. If this had been murder, and who knows what happened with these other gentlemen who entered the room, we can only speculate, but Phil ran to get help. Right. So with his past involvement with the Gambino organization, he would have either fled or he would have hid the body. He wouldn't have run to get help. And everybody who knows Phil, from Angelo Baroni, who was married to him for over 14 years, to close friends like myself and UFC and Bellator star John Fitch, who I'm about to be on another program with after this. We all knew Phil has a very big heart. He's a very big-hearted individual. And he was concerned with this for this woman. He ran to get help. And what I was saying was, there's so much false information out there by these other channels. And what I was saying in that regard is, Hollywood, that I'm an entertainer. Right. And I know the desire and the need to get clicks. But in this type of a case, as where someone's life is in jeopardy, when you're in a corrupt foreign country, and all of these variables with the corruption of the police that I'm stating, I just want to let those other channels know that we are vetting. Our team is vetting anything that's put out on this for potential libel and slander. And once again, I want to reiterate, we are the preeminent attorneys, not only in the United States, but we have the very best on the ground globally, including 2 former district attorneys there in Mexico who functioned as district attorneys. So Phil has the very best representatives. I want to make it known that there is a motion to dismiss that is very powerful, and that the court there locally refused to pass judgment on because it put so much egg on the face of the police there locally. What they did is they kicked it up. And that typically in the United States, a motion like that would be determined expeditiously. But in this case, they can take months to, but they cannot proceed with any type of a trial. And they also, very important, cannot move Phil. There's been a lot of misinformation about him being moved
until that
until
motion's heard,
judgment
right?
rendered on that motion to dismiss, which is a very, very powerful motion. And we are confident that he'll be a free man, and that once that motion is judged upon.
Do they have a date set for that motion yet, Matt?
No, because it's in Mexico, and again, like based on the most current information I have in our group from our attorneys, it should be in the next 90 days.
Okay.
But we don't know, because this is a wild situation. It's a wild country, and there's so much corruption that had I not stepped in and intervened, this is an American citizen who would be rotting down there. So as many American citizens have, I mean, they attempt to extort. I'll leave it at that. That's what they do in these types of situations. And that's why, we have the very best representation for Phil.
Well, it's good that he's got that, because I know as good as anybody the importance of a good lawyer and good investigation. And to your point, when it's realized after they've made an arrest and made it a charge that they probably made a mistake, nobody really wants to admit that. So like you said, they kick it up, they stall it, they move it around so as to not look like they were incompetent. So it's definitely, I would say that even happens in the US quite often, but I'm sure in places where corruption is rampant, like Mexico, is even more prevalent down there.
Definitely. That's such a great point, because from your own personal situation to how that can happen.
Oh, yeah.
Even here in the United States. And anyone who knows your story, and anyone who doesn't, I encourage them to watch, Concrete and the other interviews you've done on it. It's a story that has maybe some parallels, but in this case, it's just so blatant. And this is a great example for folks, because let's face it, I mean, Mexico is a destination that so many Americans travel to. Right. I can tell you this, I have a villa overseas in Shaka, in Sicily. I'm not going anywhere near Mexico or, Central America anytime soon. With our firm, Frank Biden, the president's brother, is our senior advisor, with our firm, and he ran the major philanthropic, really the largest philanthropic organization in Mexico and Central America, like Costa Rica. And there's so many stories of the entrenched corruption down there.
Oh yeah, I've got a friend. He owns his own business, but he was actually he was actually a body double for Ahmad Arsanti in a movie they were filming down here in Charleston, and it was just for that particular film. And I seen a picture of his house with Armand, and he told me the story how he was the body double for him for a movie. But he goes to Mexico and he stays for a month during the summer. And one of the last times he got back, he said they were out riding around and they got pulled over. and they were basically just hassling him. And he said, what it is, they're looking for a handout. They're looking for money for you to pay him. And he wasn't paying him shit. And so more people were showing up. And he said it got to a point to where he was like, all right, I might better give him something, because this is getting kind of hairy here. And that's
yeah. And to people that don't understand what the suspected motive might be of the corrupt police, I mean, it's pretty blatant. Just follow the money.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to get into the specifics of what our investigators have found out regarding extortion, but just follow the money.
Yeah. And that's typically how it goes in about everything, but especially, like you said, when down there, when corruption is so rampant. Like you said, the cartels are basically running the streets, they're running the prisons and everywhere in between. So, it's ultimately, it's what they say goes. And, they have more control over the prison than I'd say the warden or the law enforcement does, I'm sure.
Yeah. And, something that exacerbates it too with Phil is his CTE issues. Mm-hmm. And it's really disgusting to me, being someone who competed at the Bush League level in MMA, never with UFC, but the fact that these guys don't have, they're treated as independent contractors, much like Vince McMahon does. I mean, I've often said that to call Dana White a scumbag would be insulting to used condoms.
Yeah, I mean, him and Vince both get a lot of flack for that, because you see these guys at some of these cons and autograph signing shows and stuff like that. They're in bad shape, and that's because it's much like rappers. Once they're that 30 minutes of fame or 20 minutes of fame, however long, some people can stretch careers for years, but most general people have a 5, 6, 7-year window. And then after that, if that's all you knew, and God forbid you got dinged up, or you were in the heyday when you were traveling 350 days a year, I mean, there's not a lot for you in lieu of health insurance, unless you were investing your money like some guys have. So yeah, a lot of them guys are in real.
The big thing, Hollywood, is there's no pension. And, I had a neighbor when I lived in South Carolina in Lake Murray, who was a Major League Baseball pitcher, Doug Ames. He played for the Angels for some years, and he played just long enough to get a pension. Mm-hmm. And be it NHL players, NFL players, NBA players, Major League Baseball players, they all have a pension. So that's something too. I mean, I'll tell you, there's going to be a firestorm coming Dana White's way. I'll leave it at that. And not Dana White directly, but coming towards the former owners, during the Zuffa era.
Right. Yeah. And I seen, well, I was down there in Florida a couple of weeks ago in Clearwater, and I was in Hogan's Beach Shop, and he actually showed up Friday night. And there, his son Nick was DJing. And you can even tell that he's walking around a little gingerly, because that report.
More than that, I mean, Hogan, the Hulkster, has had, God, how many back surgeries?
Yeah,
a lot. Bonner, my good friend Stephan Bonner, who just passed away, mm-hmm. had a number of back surgeries. And he was talking about Hogan, and he said Hogan had like 5 times more back surgeries than he's had. So, and there's a great quote from Kamal Chalaroos, who I managed through most of his fight career with the second half of WEC and then UFC, and won fighting championships. And my old training partner and roommate way back in the day when we were training at the Milicic Gym in Austin, Texas. And he has a great quote. He's from Iran, and he grew up in the mountains of Iran, and up in Abu Dhajan, near the Abu Dhajan region there. And he has a tremendous quote. He says, "Promoters treat fighters like cattle."
Yeah.
And it's so true.
Yeah, that's exactly true. Well, Matt, please keep us updated on Phil's story. I mean, I hope everything works out for him there. Maybe whenever they do get for that motion, you can come back on Crime and Entertainment and give us an update there, because I feel what he's going through for sure. I mean, I feel sympathetic for anybody in this situation, but definitely when you're out of the country, that adds a whole nother layer of problems and hurdles to overcome, be it legal or otherwise.
Definitely, Hollywood. And normally, we don't speak on active cases, but there was so much misinformation out there. And this is such a unique case in that it's in a corrupt foreign country that I wanted to come on, and I thought of your platform. I just talked to Larry Matza yesterday, a good friend of mine that's down here in Florida. And I think you've had Larry on before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've had Larry on Crime and Entertainment before, yeah.
Yeah, so I was telling Larry that I was coming on your show, and he spoke very highly of you. And he said he's going to get me out to Vegas to go on Mob TV.
Oh, wow.
I was supposed to be appearing on his show for Mob TV this year anyway. So hopefully we're going to expedite that. And then I'm going to be doing my show, Old School Shooters. Typically I co-host it with Jack Kilby for the Hannibal TV, but tonight it's going to be with MMA Power Hours, Colin Crandall. And we have, again, UFC and Bellator veteran fighter, John Fitchon, who was a training partner and friend of Phil's. And we're going to chat a little about this situation too. And want to get the word out, just get the truth out, man. You know,
yeah, that's the important thing, because so much you can't control the narrative of the media. The media wants, like you said, that click, that juicy story. So they're going to put whatever makes people click. So you guys, I understand exactly what you're doing. You're trying to control the narrative in this and let people know that just because it's a headline in the news, that does not mean that it's true. I try to stress that to people. Don't believe that.
Yeah, absolutely, Hollywood. I really appreciate it, brother. I've got to run, but I'll always love being on your show, and I will promote this in a number of different Facebook groups and platforms and so forth once it airs.
Yeah, I'll try to get it processed. Maybe we can get it up tonight for us.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. Have a great night.
All right, man. You too. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Hollywood Wade. That was King of Connecticut, Matt Granahan. And unfortunately, we are out of time. Tune in next week for an all-new episode of Crime and Entertainment. Matt, we appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Have a great night. Bye-bye.